Máirtíns.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sorry I missed the start of the presentation, but as you know, we've discussed this report previously. I'm wondering just if you would like to gaze into your crystal ball and tell me how you see the development of the international airport here over the next 5 years. When we met the gentlemen from the international airport, they talked about if they could put on 1 million extra passengers, they believe they could create 1,000 jobs. Your report disputes that figure, but that's their figure anyway, and I regard them as the experts in this matter. But how do you see the development, in particular vis-a-vis Dublin, over the next 5 years? You see large growth, fast growth, optimistic, pessimistic, realistic?
I see growth at the international, and if you look at the number of new routes that have come forward from the international, Wizz Air is a new airline. And the international, we work closely with the international, and they're out all the time looking to get routes in, looking to, they're proactive, they're active. There's the new airline in Wizz. EasyJet announced a major increase in seat capacity. Those are positive noises coming forward. There's no doubt there's a challenge, and Dublin is a challenge, but it's not just about air passenger duty, as some people would make the argument. The road network is now so good. You can get from bus from here to Dublin. Dublin Airport is actively marketing in Northern Ireland.
I've made the point before at this committee, the road goes both ways.
Yeah.
So how come they're not marketing down there? If the road's good to get to Dublin, is the road similarly not good to get from Dundalk or Drogheda or Monaghan to Belfast International? Or is it only go one way?
No, the road goes both ways, but Dublin provides much more connectivity than you would get from Belfast International. And Belfast International and Belfast City and City of Derry are not looking to be Dublin. I suppose that's one of the important things to say. We're looking to be achievable. We need direct access, as much direct access as possible. We need direct access into Scandinavia, into Germany, into certain parts of Northern Europe for business and inbound tourism perspective. Belfast International is key to that. There's no doubt about that at all, and they're actively out there looking to get those routes in. A couple of things that we can help them with. We support our airports at World Routes conferences. So, for example, we'll be supporting the International in Durban in September. We organise Northern Ireland Stand. And you'll have heard about the European Routes Conference, which is coming in 2017. That's a very significant conference to have, not just for Belfast, but for Northern Ireland. And it was an example of government, Visit Belfast, the airports all working together. That effectively is, you've got two conferences in the world annually that bring our airlines together with airports. You have World Routes and you have European Routes. We have managed to get European Routes, which will be a major move for 2017.
And I take your point. In fact, the last time we discussed this, I made the point. I really do think the airports need to up their game as well. That they can't blame it all on APD. But you would agree that our passenger duty is a barrier, is a brake on their development?
As the report says, if we didn't have to pay for the tax, you would have a 12% increase in passenger numbers, and you would have 55-60 million extra into the economy. Because it's a UK tax and under the Azores criteria, we would have to pay for it. That's when the things tend to balance out.
So it is a brake on the development of it is a brake on the development of the airports, and a brake on the development of our economy and our tourism. I think
it's fair to say, ministers, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister will frequently say, and they've spoken to the Treasury, it's a tax that has an unfair impact on Northern Ireland. Their argument is that it has to be dealt with at a UK level, and I think what you might see developing is because Scotland, Smith Commission has said Scotland will get it devolved. Treasury is shortly to come out with a consultation, we understand, about the regions of England, because there's now a knock-on effect where the various regions are looking to see, well, how is this going to impact on them? Newcastle Airport's worried about what's happening north of the border. We haven't seen the content of that consultation at this stage, but
so I think Tony wants to come in. So you agree it's a break, and we have switched economy ministers and finance ministers. We haven't heard them repeat their disappointment at this tax. But you agree it's a break on development of the airports, break on the tourism development, a break on economic development. Does Tony want to come in then as well about? Do you agree it's a good tax for London?
Well, it certainly raises significant revenue for the UK Exchequer. To reiterate John's point, it is a view that the ministers have said that they think it should be it's imposed at the UK level. We believe it should be tackled at the UK level because that would bring benefits for the whole of the UK, including Northern Ireland. In terms of what does that mean?
What does that mean, tackle at the UK level? What do you mean?
Reduced across the UK as a whole.
But sure,
rather than leaving it to the devolved administrations to reduce it, where then we would have to take the block.
well, we wouldn't have to, of course. It's a matter of negotiation where the pain falls. In this case, the tax is very good for London. It's a typical case of a tax which is devised by English ministers, which is good for London in particular. And Heathrow, I'm sure, is delighted with it. It was, of course, we started it was supposed to be a green tax, but that's long forgotten. But surely the way to tackle it is the devolved regions saying this, and then we need to discuss where the pain falls. I mean, there wasn't much discussion about it when it was introduced. Why would you have to take all the pain if it's removed?
Well, if we were seeking to devolve it, the European rules around how you devolve taxes are quite strict. So we would, under EU rules, we would, as per corporation tax, we would have to take a block adjustment equivalent to the tax receipts foregone. So there'd be limited scope for us to negotiate down the cost of that.
But that should still be a matter of negotiation, surely.
Well, the European rules give little flexibility. We would need to take a block adjustment equivalent to tax receipts foregone. So that would still be significant. What we would rather see is this tax reduce across the UK, where we would reap the benefits, but not have an associated block adjustment. And I suppose in terms of your point, Máirtín, about whether it's an inhibitor, well, I think it's clear from the research that yes, it does have a negative impact on connectivity and on passenger travel. But I suppose the question is whether or not reducing it and bearing that cost is the most effective way of tackling that issue. If we're trying to grow our economy, is incurring a 60 million block adjustment for APD the most effective way of doing that, or other things such as our development funds, which as John has suggested, or are there broader things that we could use that money on in terms of trying to improve the economy? So that's a choice for ministers to make. Where do you get your biggest return, I suppose? Where's the biggest bang for the buck?
Well, it really goes down, I suppose, to the block grant and who controls that. But it seems to me that the effect on the growth of the airport, the growth of tourism, the growth of the economy is manifold. As well as that, of course, our added difficulty at this time is that we're trying to create a buzz about Belfast. And when people talk about leisure tourism, business tourism, it's really where you can get too fast, grow an image of a city which is on the move, fastest growing knowledge economy in Europe. And the more connectivity you have, the better that is for the city. And this seems to me to inhibit that. And it's a classic case of a decision taken in London, which is good for London, but certainly not good for whatever about Glasgow and Edinburgh, certainly not good for Belfast.
Just in terms of the figures on page 56 of your report, I just want to clarify for members, 50% reduction would cost us 26.1 million for this year, and you're saying that the income effect is 4.4 million. What does that consist of, the income effect?
Okay, so the income effect is if APD was reduced, it would mean that local people don't have to pay it, so therefore they've got the £6.50 in their pocket. So that's an income effect. That's a positive benefit to local people because they don't have to pay the tax. So, albeit
that doesn't take into account the wider economic.
No, the income effect doesn't take into what that's just a fiscal, a taxation point. So there's the amount of money that's taken out of the block grant, but then there's the amount of money that local people are better off because they didn't have to pay the tax. In terms of the wider benefits, that's dealt with in the economic benefits section.
But is there an estimate of what the income effect is coupled with the overall economic impact, so we can balance it out?
In terms of how the analysis is done, so what we've got the government spend impact, which is a negative, then we've got the income effect, which is a positive, and then you've got the net impact, the net government impact. So the summary table sets out, it includes all those aspects. It includes the wider economic benefits you were talking about. It includes the fiscal or cost to the block grant, but also the positive income effect.
Of course, the figures in terms of the government spend are based on Treasury figures.
Right, no, well, we have two tables. One, so in table 514, which I think is the one you're looking at.
Yep.
So that's based on our estimates and the York Aviation passenger estimates of what the tax impact would be. The table on the next page, 515, is based on the HMRC, and you can see that the government spend impact's greater there in comparison to those two tables.
Chair, can I comment on that? Just help us with this. I mean, the figures, we don't know what the figures are, or we do know what the figures are exactly for tax income from APD last year.
We don't have them exactly. We're taking this from the HMRC report where their estimates.
We don't have figures?
No. Not
Okay.
precise figures, no.
Well, are they guesses or are they figures? I mean, this man here talks about trust and transparency. Are they figures or are they not figures? Because we're basing a lot of assumptions here on figures from APD income. So let's talk about what we actually have, which is accurate.
Okay, so in terms of how the APD is raised centrally, it's money that goes straight to Treasury. At the minute, there isn't precise calculations for what is raised in each of the regions across the UK. What HMRC do is they allocate, they have at a relatively high level, they allocate what they think is the tax revenues across each of the devolved administrations and England. So that's a high level estimate.
So the guys, I'm very impressed by high level estimates rather than low level estimates, but the guys who devise the tax, they decide how much if we ask them, but there are no exact figures. So how do we negotiate with these people about the amount of pain we would take or wouldn't take when we don't actually know how much it costs?
So, so what we're suggesting is, one, Treasury's opening position is likely to be the HMRC estimate, but from the passenger numbers that we're looking at and the travelling at different whether it's premium class or economy class, we believe we have got a much more accurate estimate of the level of APD that's raised in Northern Ireland. So the work that York Aviation did and we did would in effect, I think, would form a good basis to start that negotiation with Treasury.
Would you agree that maybe it might be good if we actually had exact figures for these matters? Yeah. Not blaming you on this, but it would be nice if when we're talking to London we knew exactly, rather than the people who devise the tax telling us this is how much you aren't gaining from it or losing from it. Would it be, do you agree it'd be useful to have exact figures for these matters?
In all these things and the kind of broader debate around fiscal powers, yes, I agree with you. It would be preferable if we had a direct account of the precise level of taxation that's raised in Northern Ireland. But the UK tax system hasn't been designed to produce, to reasonably identify the taxes raised. So what we have are estimates based on the best methodology that can be devised at the time using the information. Now, we are engaging with HMRC across the piece, and colleagues in the other devolved administrations. We're working with Scotland because it's a similar issue for them.
Do you agree it's a very difficult way to do business?
In all these things, it would be better to have perfect information. Where we don't, what we endeavour to do is get the best information possible with the systems that are in place to produce that information. But yes, I concur. I concur. We want the best information we can to help inform our decisions.
Can I just add to what Gareth was saying, just to probably explain a bit more about the 55 million? As in many things, Northern Ireland is unique within the UK, and our travel patterns unique. So we're predominantly low-cost travel. We're predominantly what would have been called budget travel before, whereas in the UK you have much more of a premium class. So, for example, an APD, on short-haul APD, there's two rates. There's £13 and there's 26. 26 is the 13 is reduced, 26 is standard. We don't have an awful lot of the 26 travellers, and likewise we don't have the same long-haul profile that you would get in GB. We have a few direct links, but primarily our long haul then will be connecting, and there's just not the same profile. So whenever Treasury do their estimates, the other regions of the UK have a different travel profile than we would have, but certainly the NICEP 55 million is, I think, reflective of the travel profile that you would get from Northern Ireland.
So, final point before Mr. Garvin, but before we even get to Europe to negotiate how much this might or mightn't cost us, we would have to get some figures, because we'd be obviously to the advantage of HMRC to say that it was X when it was really Y if they're calling the shots. So,
and if we were moving to a devolved context, for example, there would need to, if we were devolving the tax and setting our own Northern Ireland rate, there would have to be systems put in place to identify precisely then the duties that were raised in Northern Ireland. So yes, at the moment when we're having a discussion, there's some space between the estimates and there's room to discuss that. If we came to a position where we actually devolved it, it wouldn't be on the basis of these estimates. A system would need to be put in place for the Northern Ireland regime, and then the block adjustment would be based on that actual figure.
I like the word regime. I'll leave it there, Chair.